Peace and blessings. You may be seated. I'm again at the excellent job. Just put some fire underneath my feet. But I like fire under my feet because I believe that the best is always forged through struggle. The best comes out of struggle. It's how we adjust, how we approach it, how we allow it to become our ally. It's not our enemy. And by struggle, I mean the natural vicissitudes of the things that we encounter just by living, just to be. That's the struggle. The blade of grass is trying to get out the ground so we can see it. Struggle. The birthing process, struggle. Building family, struggle. Relationship, struggle. So I start there to say, Mama Gainer, you threw a struggle at me, and I'm going to embrace it. Once again, peace and blessings, everyone. I want to welcome all of you out to this National First Convention. I'm glad you are here. Hopefully you are glad to be here. You answered a call, you heard a call, whether you heard it from someone else, a flyer, but you showed up. And this is not a small time thing, like I said last night. This is major. This is major, it's huge, it's monumental, and most importantly, this is necessary. I want to give a special thanks to Mama Ani. And although I know she don't need this, nor do she require this, but I'm going to tell you what I'm going to extend this to. Because when I sent the flyer to her, Mama, probably like a year ago, she was on board and she would call me, ideas, questions, talking, texting, calling, and the closer we got, the more energy she got. Come on. And that was beautiful. That was wonderful. There's another elder I want to give a special thanks to. Let's see, Baba Nkuamzi. It's back there. Baba Khalil Baker's back there. Baba Sinkoor Day. These elders that I just named, from the very beginning, when I say, hey man, I'm calling for a National First Convention, they just jumped on board. They just jumped on board. I'm there. I'm supporting. And as we moved along, other elders came on board and just saw. So all the elders who are here, I'm blessed by you. Nkrumah Akili came on board. Stay right here. You stay right here, Robin. You know, this can't be the last one. He just got me and get out here. You know, as we was walking in the door. You know this can't be the last one. Stay right here with that, and I hear you. But my job was to get us here. Now we're here. Where we go from here is our job. Where we go from here is our job. It's what we do today and tomorrow that determines who we become. Because that's what it's always been about. It's always been about how do we come together. Mama Mwemba gave me a charge. She said, Mama, in your opening speech, can you talk to us more about the history of the conventions? It was not my intentions to do that. But she put a charge on me. And it's a heavy charge. You know? It's a heavy charge. So I want to start off talking a little bit about what I'm going to do today. It's called Race First, Tradition and Continuity. Tradition and continuity. Understand the two and how the two works together. The tradition is the established systematic process that people implement in how they execute their lives going forward. It is what they pass down to the generation that comes after them. It is not always verbal. It's not always written. Most importantly, it is always demonstrative. It's what we see, we do. Always. From one generation to the next becomes our tradition. Tradition can become misplaced. Tradition can become lost. If the recipients of the tradition do not hold the tradition sacred. Come on. Come on. If the recipients do not hold it sacred, we lose the tradition. So when I said a race first convention, the opposition that came up, a convention, what are you talking about? You can't do a convention. Black people are not going to come together. We talk too much. Are you talking, or do you mean a conference? Or you trying to do another conference? I said convention. Bible Imhotep is clear. Convention. In the year 1829, in Cincinnati, Ohio, there was this law on the book where in that particular state, they required black people to pay $500 if it was free to be there. So black people made their efforts to comply. And while they was there, they began to get their jobs, purchase homes, to stay there. As always, white people disagreed with that.
Keep going.
Can we tone that down? Some please? Can we tone that down? You know, it's beating me. But not true. You know, so black people attempted to comply, paying the bond, trying to fit in a system that was not designed for them in 1829 in Cincinnati, Ohio. As always, white people were upset, they was mad, they were jealous, all the other stuff that come with it. And what they did is they systematically slaughtered, beat, killed, robbed, ransacked the homes, burned the homes. And what black people decided to do because of that incident, black people began to migrate, to leave Cincinnati, Ohio, and they headed for Canada. They headed for Canada. Black activists in Philadelphia and in New York heard about it and began to talk about it. But that's all they was doing was talking. But there was a brother out of Baltimore City named Hezekiah Grice who also heard about it, and he said, nah, we need to call for a national convention to figure out how we're going to address this stuff that's happening to us on a national stage. So from 1829, leading around into September the 15th, in Philadelphia, the First Negro Convention jumped off. September the 15th, 1830 in Philadelphia. And it started from a brother from Baltimore City who said we needed to call for something to bring us together on a national stage. So then the terminology they was using, they used a terminology called cooperative solidarity. Cooperative solidarity. Because they understood that we are dealing with folk who attack us in New York, Baltimore, North Carolina, but these people are national with the attacks. They are not isolated. Because we don't understand politically what's happening, we think they're isolated. That's a national agenda, an international agenda that's being launched against us. Hezekiah Grice was on point. He said that, granted, we do good work locally. It's not enough. It's a band-aid. Because what you do locally, you're going to grow up eventually. And you're going to fizzle off. You're going to start having babies. You get married. You're raising your families. Then those local organizations fall to the wayside. But this national enemy persists. Why? Because we lost the tradition. The tradition of the national stage, of bringing ourselves together on a national stage, outlining a national agenda. The Negro Convention movement was the first organized political for black people in this country. That became our Congress. That became our Senate. That's where our national issues were debated. And the Negro Convention movement, it lasted from 1830 to 1893. Those are just the national conventions, 21 in total. The national conventions. I'm not including the state conventions that was being happening. If you go to the state level, you get about 200 conventions. Nationally, it was 21. The first 8 took place in Philadelphia, which was happening from the 1930 to like 1938. And we got 3, I believe, in the 40s, 1943, 1948. Then in the 50s, what happened in the 50s, because of what, check your history out now, what happened in 1850? What kind of law that was instituted in 1850 in this land? Bingo. Bingo. But that's what they began to do. They began to organize conventions around armed struggle. The 50s, 1850s was that year. That was the language. That was the talking points. Armed struggle. And it was organizing to preserve, not only to preserve their lives, their family lives, but to keep the race safe. And the discussions that was coming out of the beginning of the conventions, many of those early discussions was about immigration. Because remember what I said earlier, that as a result of what happened in Cincinnati, we had about 1,000 black people over a time period that left and went to Canada. It's about 1,000. So that first convention, one of the things that was on it with issues, major issues, was immigration. So through the 1830s, most of the conventions was about immigration. Around 1835, 36, 37, around that time period, you know, we shifted. Then a little bit of the reform things came into place where they started addressing some of the reform issues and things like that. As we always do, we're that kind of people for the most part. We tend to shift sometimes because too many of us rub shoulders with the wrong people. And we allow the wrong people to convince us that this is how we should move. We should be inclusive. They tell you that. They say that to think black is narrow, and we buy into that because they use intellect to justify it. So we start listening to that, and we start swaying ourselves. So they tell you that if you say that, you know, we're going to put yourselves first, that then what about the rest of humanity? So we start thinking that stuff through, right? And we start trying to figure out how to weave all these other things into an initial ideology that was race first from the beginning.
That's right. Absolutely.
From the very beginning.
Absolutely.
That was always the thinking with black people. When you're going back and looking at us and really listening to what we was thinking about. I said it last night, you have to study Paul Cuffey. Paul Cuffey wasn't even trying to hire anybody but black people to man them ships. He understood that very well. He was very clear about that. And it's because of Paul Cuffey and what he was doing that the white boys watched him and came up with what? The American Colonization Society. They was watching Cuffey. They was inspired by Cuffey. But once again, what's the diplomacy? It's the organization of black people again. And the power of how we can become reorganized. So even with the 1830 convention in 1833, you get what? Henry Lord Garrison started what? Anyone know? The American Anti-Slavery Society.
What was the question again?
I said I was getting an answer to it. That's okay. My point is this though. Lord Garrison and those racist white boys who had finances in that time period, they would come around the conventions. They was hanging out with Purvis and 14. They was listening. So from 1830 to 1833, so in 1833, they launched that thing. It sounds like something great with that, and that American Anti-Slavery Society as a movement originates because of the power of black organization, because they're watching the Negro conventions. So he starts that, and once again, you know, some of us go into it, you know. We lose ourselves because we've been conditioned for a very long time to believe that we need other people. And we say things like, we're a minority, so we can't do this. But I always refer people to this right here. I say, have you ever studied the Cuban Revolution? Right? I say, you ever studied that revolution? I say, when Castro and his crew initiated the beginning of that in the early 50s, most people don't know about that. They started it in the early 50s, which they was the recipients of a traditional struggle that came out of the 1800s, the Spanish-American War. So they was recipients of that. So when they initially tried to take Cuba in the early parts, it was not a success. It was crushed, and they was captured, put on trial, and convicted. They didn't send them to exile yet. They got exiled after Amnesty International got involved and applied pressure. Then the government said, okay, we're gonna let them out, but they gotta leave Cuba. So they kicked them out of Cuba. They went to Mexico. And it's in Mexico where Castro met Che Guevara. He met Che in Mexico. That's right. And in Mexico, they ran into the brother that was in the army that trained him in Mexico. That's right. And Che was listening to Castro talk about going back and taking the country. And he was listening because Che was already an adventurer himself, running around trying to figure out what he was going to do with his motorcycle. So he joined with them. This is the relevancy. They went back to Cuba. They had no more than 90 people with them. No more than 90. That's right. When it started. That's right. And they got in the midst of things. And they developed what they call a Vaco theory. They developed that. And out of the 90, they take a country. Now, am I saying we can do what they can do? I'm not saying it. What I'm saying is that we got to stop saying we're a minority. That's the point I'm saying. Because our struggle got to come out of our conditions. I'm clear about that. But we can't keep using the minority as a reason to incorporate people that shouldn't be a part of what we do. It burns my soul. Because I know who we are. I know exactly who we are. I'm very clear about who we are. We need to make sure we're clear about that. So the Race First rally, the Race First Convention comes out of Race First rallies. I called for the Race First rally because I got tired of hearing people complain about Black Lives Matter. Right? So y'all complain about Black Lives Matter. Black Lives, they're doing what they're doing because those of us who say we Pan-Africanists, Gandhi, right? Nationalists, Afrocentricists, right? We have retreated from the battlefield. We left the board out there for them stepping to it. We retreated. But today, we are re-entering the battlefield. That's what this was about. So we ain't going to complain about what other folks are doing because we disagree with them. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? How are we going to show and prove that this thing we call Pan-Africanism is real? How are we going to demonstrate that it's serious? That's right. That's right. That's right. So Race First Rally came August 2020. And those who were there at the very beginning, you heard me say, I'm calling for a National Race First Convention in 2025. Who remember that?
Yes, you did.
And every year I talked about this. I came in, I was on people's YouTube channels. I was on Zoom meetings, consistently saying, we need this convention. And I consistently said, we need to focus on building up national consciousness so we can deal with our issues at a national level. Because I'm going to tell you something that hurt my heart again. Now, all of you can remember this. I was in Atlanta when this happened. When the massacre occurred in Buffalo, New York. Y'all remember that? Okay. It happened in Buffalo, New York. You know, some black people talk about it on Facebook, TikTok, like we normally do, on Instagram, for like the first week. Then the second week, it got a little bit more or less talked about. Before you know it, it was another issue. We was going somewhere else. All right? And the reason why that happens, I'm going to tell you why this happens. Remember early on I said that Hezekiah Grice, they use a terminology called cooperative solidarity? Okay, I'm going to link it up now, continuity, right? So, with national consciousness, when it's there, it naturally, now finally, you can write this down, and you can write it away, say down, and you can study this, and you can find it to be a truth. When national consciousness is developed within a people, logically, a national identity is born. It's a logical process. If the national consciousness is developed, there is a national identity. And when the national identity is born or created, national solidarity happens. And when we can get to the stage of development of national solidarity, the next stage is national feeling. We're not on a national level, we sincerely feel for one another. And when we achieve national feeling, the last stage that I think is the best and the most demonstrative stage is national response. National response. You touch one of us in Atlanta, we're going to deal with you in Baltimore. You touch us in Mexico, we're going to deal with you in New York. That's the national response. We respond at a national level. And we let everybody know that we are together. We respond at a national level. But let me add in a caveat. You can't do this work if you're solely dependent upon them people to pay your bills by working for them, because you will be afraid. You will naturally be afraid. You won't do what needs to be done if you are locked to them because they pay your bills. If you work for them, you won't do this work at the level the work needs to be done. So having said that, economic power has to figure out how we're going to address that. That's your task. Because we're not moving because a lot of us are afraid. And not because we are cowards naturally. We're just afraid because I gotta make sure to take care of my babies. I gotta pay my bill. I'm gonna lose my house. The false sense of security incarcerates us.
That's right.
Because it's false.
That's right. That's right.
In Baltimore City, there's a road that's called the Highway to Nowhere. The Highway to Nowhere. It was a black community in the city. This was probably at least 600 years ago. They enacted eminent domain and came through there and erased all of that.
That's right.
So you don't really own that home.
That's right.
Because they said we're going to do eminent domain, it's going to be done. So we need to know what's going on. And now you go down there where those black people used to live.
That's right.
You see traffic and cars right there. And we can talk about they used to live there. They used to live there. Because they have created a false sense of security under the Ma'afa.
That's right.
And because we are trying to maintain the false sense of security, we fuel the Ma'afa.
That's absolutely.
So we become complicit and accomplices by default in the system that's destroying us.
Say that.
And we only go so far because you get tired at some point, and then you hear older people sometimes, or even younger people saying, "Oh, I used to be a part of that movement. I used to do this," because we're not paying attention to how this system is set up at a national level. It is designed to co-opt us. Emil Kaufman said this, and we always quote him, but don't study him.
That's right.
He said, return to the source. And I'm going to tell you what he meant by that in a very simplistic way. If you're on your knees, and someone is standing on your back, all you have to do is stand up, logically they fall off. Every step we make back to our culture is a step towards silence. Everything we have gotten from them in terms of their worldview must be determined.
That's right.
Must be determined. You cannot try to rationalize it. Du Bois talked about it in the early 20th century. He called it double consciousness. I call it today the ghost of double consciousness.
That's right.
We are still dealing with, we are still haunted by that. We are still trying to be African and American. Some of us still try to resolve that in our head. We're still asking ourselves why I can't be both. Didn't our people build this land? Our people worked in this land according to the specifications of those who implemented the Ma'af.
Right. Come on.
We worked according to their specifications under duress of the highest degree. Now, for those who hear things because of trauma and we tend to interpret things wrong, let me break down what I'm saying before you walk out of here and say, I'm stepping on what our ancestors done. Right? I am not stepping on what our ancestors have done. I'm not stepping on nothing that we've done. I'm trying to make it real clear to us what have occurred to us. So we can know that's what they wanted us to do. That's what this is about. What they wanted us to do, what they was trying to tell us to do.
Right.
We have to be clear to that degree. So we talk about the tradition. The tradition for us, it's a tradition of putting black people first, valuing black lives.
Right.
That's our tradition. But not like we trying to convince somebody to see the humanity in us. See, black people always knew and we know our own humanity. We don't seek to convince people who we are.
That's right.
That's not what we do. We do that to each other. We talk about Ubuntu, and we like to break it down and use a simple phrase, right? And then once again, when we use these terms that come from our ancestors, and we don't think deeply about it, we do the terms a disservice. Like, we can't just, we gotta stop saying Ashe is just so let it be. It's much deeper than that. It's much deeper than that. We gotta stop saying Ubuntu is I am because we are. It's deeper than that. It's deeper than that. I'm gonna tell you what it is. It's this right here. It's to see the divinity in me. And because you see my divinity, you extend divine treatment to me. And based on that treatment, I am going to reciprocate. So Ubuntu is a system of humane living that's reciprocated from one person to the next person to the next person. It's our treatment of one another. It's how we treat each other. Not always suspecting being suspicious. When you suspect that you're being suspicious, it's because that white man is still inside your head. Don't get to do some work on yourself. Now, I'm not saying that we don't got people that look like us that are harm us. Yes, we do, because we know we're in a sick land. But I'm saying in a space like this right here,
Come on.
we should be loving. We should be good. Like, whatever your apprehensions were entering here, leave it out there.
That's right.
That's what this is about. When you enter a black organization, don't bring all this stuff into it. Go into that organization with the mindset that I'm a learn what I can learn, I'm going to help out, and I'm going to allow this organized structure to fashion and transform me.
Go ahead, Bob.
Right? The organizations that we go into must be vehicles of transformation.
Go ahead.
Vehicles of transformation, not spaces and places just to collect information. Information in and of itself does not transform you.
Absolutely.
It does not transform you. There's more to it than just acquiring information. It requires a level of reflection, a level of self-correction, a level of humility. If you're in an organized structure and you say you love the structure, then you must be willing to relinquish a portion of yourself to the authority of that structure. You must be willing to do that. You can't be in the structure and you want to buck everything about it. The structure is in place to aid you in your growth, development, evolution, and expansion. It only happens when you join in with that structure in a participatory way. In a participatory way. You have to be in it. We talk about African. One of the most fundamental things I know about African people, black people, and I learned this early on, is that based and rooted in the understanding of groupness. An African society is an organized organism composed of multiple organized organisms. That's how it breaks down. The society is fueled by organization. Organized structures. No one is left unto him or herself to think, do, and be as he or she pleases. You only get that when you have been successfully conditioned by these people. You say things like, I'm my own man. I'm my own woman. I do my own thing. Right? That's a sickness. And I'm not saying it's a sickness because white folk, I'm telling you, that's a sickness in nature. It's a sickness in nature. Like even the vultures that, that eat carcasses, you see them hanging out, at least one or two of them hanging out together. Don't watch the animals. You can see like the bees, the ants, the roaches, the mice, they all hang up together. We don't like them. The rats hang out together in the alleys. It's a sickness in nature to keep saying, I'm my own man, I'm my own woman. I'm going to tell you why it's a sickness. Because manhood and womanhood is not individual. You don't determine it. The society you come through determines it.
Go ahead, Bob.
And it's not a monolithic definition across societies.
Go ahead.
So what we need as black men, to be a black man, cannot be measured by looking at what white men do. You can come up short. Same for black women. You can't be looking at white women. You can't be looking at Chinese women. You can't be looking at Japanese women trying to get a concept of what it means to be a black woman, an African woman. Join an African organization around black women, and you'll learn what it means to be a black woman. And raising black children is the same thing. You can't look outside of us to understand what it means to raise a black child. You can't use their quote-unquote statistics and their projectiles they tell you about. Well, your son is in the 99% projectile and all of those stuff. We run around with that. We all happy by their validation. And your son is dumb as a bat. Your son dumb as a bat because they have created a very, very low total for their child. Right? It's just so low. And your child won that. You're like, my child, he scored in the averages. You know what I'm saying? He's progressive. Well, what else is standard they judging him by? Right. Your child 15, they got him on a standard that's for 5-year-olds. And we wonder why they ain't capable of raising families and building homes and doing what they're supposed to do. Because we have relinquished too much of who we are.
Revolutionary love is how we gonna grow. Revolutionary love will protect us home. Revolution.